I'm Greg Garbos of Four Season Tools. We're preparing to put up the hoops on a 30x48 3-position V-track tunnel. When we're building a movable tunnel, we don't have the luxury of a foundation or posts that are driven in the ground like you do on a stationary tunnel. So we build a movable tunnel. We start by building all the sidewalls and large panels. We build all the hoop tops or trusses and end walls and panels as well. Then we're ready to put it up. We support the sidewalls, we get them upright, and then we cap it with all the hoop tops. So we're about to do that process now. We've built our sidewalls on the ground. This particular tunnel happens to have a sidewall door, so we put our sidewall doors in. We've already got our sidewall corner braces in, the ones that are in between the lower of the two sidewall corner braces that will help with support. We've used some braces that we're going to end up using later, like the ridge braces and the roof corner braces for the far end to support the walls. So now the walls are upright. We've measured the diagonals of the two walls to make sure that we're building the building square. If the two diagonals match, we know that that one isn't further down the track than the other one. Now they're both upright. We've got both, all these different braces holding it down in both directions. What we're going to do is we're going to start by putting up the second hoop. We're going to do the second hoop because it already has a corner brace that's supporting it. Then we'll put up our end wall hoop, our third hoop. We're going to put the first 3 hoops up together because we have little purlin ends that extend our purlins by 1 foot. Every new purlin is going to catch the first 3 hoops when we get started. So we're going to get hoops 1, 2, and 3. We're going to build all 3 of those in a set. Get those first 3 hoops built. We'll put in all of our sidewall corner braces. We'll put in our roof corner braces. We'll put in all of our purlins. Once our first 3 hoops are all built and all fully braced, then we have a sturdy structure to build off of. After that, we'll put up 2 more hoops. We'll add purlins as we go and additional braces as we go. It's important to make sure that you have everything ready to do this step. You don't want to start this at the end of the day. You want to make sure you got clear weather, you got everybody on the same page about what they're going to be doing, because once you get this started, you really want to get several hoops up so that you've got a stable and strong structure. We've gone through, and some of the things that we've checked is we've added 2 3/8 inch brace bands that we've sleeved over our sidewall hoops everywhere we know there's going to be things. So we've got brace bands where our end wall is going to connect to our sidewall hoops. We've got a brace band on the end where our anchor cable is going to go. We've got 2 brace bands for our metal hip boards. We have a brace band for our sidewall corner brace is going to go, and a brace band for our roof corner brace. So we've thought through where all the different brace bands go. You can always open them up and put them on after the fact, but it's easier to put them on ahead of time. Since we're going to be using brace bands and 5/16 bolts, we're going to need to have deep 1/2 inch sockets. We're going to be putting on our cross connectors of the aluminum pieces that attach the purlins to the hoops. Those have 1/4 inch bolts. We want to make sure we have deep 7/16 inch sockets. Make sure we have extra brace bands around and extra cross connectors around. We're going to be using several ladders. When we tilt the hoop up, what we're going to do is get it where it goes. We're going to tilt it up to someone on a tall ladder in the center. They're not going to be lifting it or supporting any of the weight. They're just going to be stabilizing the top of that hoop. We'll have people on both sides of the hoops where they are. We've gone through and we've checked all of our sidewall hoops and the swatches on our top to make sure there's no metal burrs or dirt that's going to get in the way from putting our hoop tops on. When we have the hoop upright, we're going to lift it up and we'll sleeve it over the top of that hoop. If it doesn't go over smooth, we want to make sure that nothing's in the wrong angle. A lot of times you'll have the hoop and it'll be up and it'll be tilted in one direction, so it won't go properly over the swatch. Important to make sure that it's going straight on. When it gets close and doesn't go all the way in, sometimes you need to tap it with a hammer or a rubber mallet. Whenever we do that, we tap the bottom or the sidewall hoop, not the top piece. You never want to hit the roof hoop or the top piece because you might damage that and then not be able to go over the swatch. Now that we're prepared and everything's laid out where we want it, we got all of our tools ready, everybody's got the jobs, it's time to start putting up the hoops. We're continuing to put up the frame on a 30x48 3-position V-track. We talked previously about making sure that everything was squared away that we needed to do with our sidewalls. Our sidewalls were tilted up. All of our brace bands that we needed were already in place. So now what we did is we went ahead and we put up the first 3 hoops. As soon as the first 3 hoops are up, the first thing that we did is we put our spacer boards in. That helped temporarily hold the hoops in place. The first brace that we put in was our ridge purlin. So we had our purlin end, which was already installed to our end wall, all the way up here, and then we put in our 12-foot purlin. Using the 2 3/8 by 1 3/8 cross connectors, we attached that to the next 2 hoops. Again, using our spacer boards to ensure that their spacing was done properly. After the ridge purlin was in place, we then went and we put in our 2 roof purlins. Our purlin end was already here, so we put in our 2 roof purlins, putting the purlin end over the swatch end of the purlin end, and then running it long so we have a swatch end coming out of the purlin there. And then we attach those with 2 3/8 by 1 3/8 cross connectors. As soon as the second hoop was up, because it has a sidewall door, we put our top sidewall corner brace in place. Over on the far side, there was no sidewall door, so we went ahead and put our sidewall corner brace from our second to our first hoop. After all three of our purlins were in, our ridge purl and our two roof purlins, all of our sidewall corner braces were in, we then went and put in our roof corner braces. Our roof corner braces, we always start them at the top. We start them at the top to ensure that the roof corner brace on each side is equidistant from that cross connector to make sure that it looks nice. So we started up here with our roof corner brace. We started at a peak of 3. We ran it back diagonally to the center of the roof of hoop 2. We butt the next brace band up for the roof corner brace against that first brace band. Then we ran it diagonally all the way back just above the shoulder of the sidewall on the first hoop. Because both of the ends are flattened in the same plane, when we put this in, I like to twist it with a pair of channel locks to make sure that it's bent down and it won't get in the way of the roof plastic. Now for the first 3 hoops, we finished all of our bracing, our purlins, sidewall corner braces, and roof corner braces. We're getting ready to put on our next 2 hoops. Since this is a movable tunnel that's 30 foot wide with 8 foot trellis height, its truss kit includes ridge braces. The ridge braces run from the top of the 3rd hoop down to the collar tie of the 4th, back of the top of the 5th. So it's easier to go ahead and slide the 1 3/8 inch brace band over the ridge purlin before we put the next purlin on. That's why this brace is dangling here, is that we're getting ready to put up our next 2 hoops. So what we'll do is we'll put a tall ladder in the center. The 2 hoops are already laid out. We'll tilt them up, put both hoops up with spacer boards to temporarily hold them in place, and then immediately start putting in our purlins. We've got our first 3 hoops up on this V-Track 30 by 48 movable tunnel. We're now going to put up the next 2 hoops to demonstrate how it's done. We're going to put up hoops 4 and then 5. So go ahead. We're tilting the hoop up. We're making sure that all the brace band nuts are facing in the same direction. In this case, the nuts are facing away from the camera because the front of the tunnel is where the camera is. We got people on ladders that are stabilizing it. On the right and the left, they're aligning the roof hoops over the swaged ends of the sidewall hoops. They're making sure that the sidewall hoops are angled in the proper direction to make sure it slides over properly. On the left, you'll see that he's pushing that out to make sure that it slides down. Once it's all the way down, a spacer board is put in to temporarily hold that hoop in place. We're putting a spacer board in each side. We're trying to put the spacer boards in the same location on both sides, so they're being put in directly above the brace bands for the short trusses. The right spacer board is in, the left spacer board is in. Now we're going to move the ladders 6 feet over, getting ready for the next hoop. Again, the hoops are put up in pairs because the 12-foot purlins will attach to 2 of the different hoops. So every time we're getting ready to put up a set of hoops, we carry over everything that we need. We carry over both hoop tops. We carry over the ladders, all the brace bands and cross connectors that we're going to need. We've also laid out all of our purlins, our ridge braces, sidewall corner braces, and roof corner braces. After the ladders are set for the next spot, we have 2 more spacer boards ready. For this project, we started with 6 spacer boards. 4 is sufficient to do the job. As soon as the 2 people on ladders are set, the ladders are nice and stable, we'll tilt up the next hoop. Again, making sure that all the nuts are facing in the same direction. We're lining the bottom of the hoops up in the proper spot to make sure that we don't have to lift it any further than we need to. That hoop is now being lifted up. On the left, you'll see that we're clearing out any of the dirt that might have gotten in the bottom of the hoop. And then on both ends, it's getting sleeved over the sidewall hoops. In order to ensure that it aligns properly, we may have to push the sidewall hoops in or out to make sure that it's aligned properly. It's also important to communicate with your team. When one side's all the way in, you want to let them know that. So now we're in a situation where both of the roof hoops are in most of the way, but not all the way. Either using weight to get it the rest of the way in, or on the left, you'll notice you can hit the bottom piece with a hammer. You never want to tap the top piece with a hammer because that will interfere with its ability to swage into itself.
Left side.
As soon as the left side's all the way in, which it looks like it is, we'll go ahead and we'll take 2 more spacer boards. We'll put those spacer boards right on top of the previous spacer boards, making sure that they're all the way in. So now that the 2 spacer boards are in on the right, we'll get the spacer board in on the left. And then the next piece is to put in the ridge purlin at the top. We'll continue to build the hoops in pairs, and at the end, we'll build the last hoop and the end wall hoop together. Good job, guys. We're continuing to put up the frame for a 3-position 30 by 48 V-track tunnel. We showed you how to put the first 3 hoops up together, all the sidewall corner braces, roof corner braces, and purlins, the ridge purlin and 2 roof purlins. The sidewall purlins were installed when the sidewalls were put together. Then we showed you how to put up the 4th and 5th hoop, tying those together with 1 ridge purlin and 2 roof purlins. We're doing these in pairs because all the purlins connect to 2 hoops. So now that our first 5 hoops are done, we're going to be doing hoops 6 and 7. Since hoop 7 is 3 in from the other side, we're going to go ahead and put 2 brace bands on the top of the hoop while it's on the ground where the roof corner braces will go. The more brace bands you can put on the ground, the easier life is once you have it up. So now that our first 5 are done, we'll put up hoops 6 and 7 and continue the process. We're finishing up putting up the frame for the 30 by 48 3-position V-track tunnel. We've already got our first 7 hoops in. It's now time for hoops 8 and 9. Same process will happen on 8. We're going to tip it up, put it over the swatches on the sidewall hoops. Then we'll put our 2 spacer boards in, make sure their spacing is correct. Then it'll take several of us to lift the entire end wall. It's a metal end wall, so it's already got all the framing in it, so it's going to be pretty heavy. We're going to tilt that up, and we'll get that in place and put some spacer boards on it. The only thing that's different about the last 2 hoops is how we install our purlins. This is a 12-foot purlin would extend past the end wall. What we're going to do is get hoop 8 up, hoop 9 up, or the end wall hoop. Then we're going to put up our purlins. Our end wall already has the purlin ends attached to it. So what we'll do is we'll hold the purlin in place and we'll mark how long it needs to be. We'll measure it, and I usually like to cut that just a tiny bit short so that on both sides we can play with the swatches. Once that purlin is cut to length, we'll do that for all 3 purlins. We'll cut them to length. Then we'll take our purlin end off of our end wall. We'll put those 2 pieces together, the cut purlin and the purlin end, and we'll put both of those up as a single piece, putting our bolts back together to put our purlin end into our end wall. Once that whole thing's in place, we'll check all of our spacing. We're going to put a level on the end wall to make sure it's nice and plumb. We have it where we want it, then we'll go ahead and we'll screw in the purlin seams. So the swatches and the purlins give you a little bit of play to make sure you get it just right. And that's how you put on the last 2 hoops. Once those are up, we'll make sure to get our sidewall corner braces in, roof corner braces in, finish our purlins, finish our ridge braces, and then it'll be the majority of the braces in the structure.